ค the world is entering a new era of opportunities and investments. Thailand stands at a crucial turning point to keep pace with the global wave. In 1975, Thailand's investment legacy began. MFC, the nation's first asset management company, revolutionized the industry and set new standards. Built on global collaboration, MFC was founded through a partnership between the Thai government and the International Finance Corporation, a division of the World Bank, to elevate Thailand's financial markets to global levels. Today, MFC stands at the forefront of the mutual fund industry, licensed by the Ministry of Finance as MFC Asset Management. As the world evolves, MFC remains a leader in Thailand's financial sector, driving investment development to meet international standards. Today, we unite to explore opportunities and prepare for future challenges. Tonight, we create a platform to connect knowledge, insights, and collaboration, ensuring Thailand and its investors continue to advance toward international excellence. This is an evening of opportunity, a chance to connect, exchange ideas, and shape a stronger financial future. This is a defining moment. As the financial world transforms, what will be the next big opportunity? Welcome to a night of vision and limitless possibilities, the world's next opportunities and beyond. And now, please welcome Narongchai Akara Sirani, Chairman of the Board of Directors, MFC Asset Management.
สวัสดีครับสวัสดีท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านครับขอเวลาท่านสักครู่เพื่อแนะนำเรื่องที่เราจะพูดกันต่อไปก่อนที่จะแนะนำก็อยากจะเรียนที่มาที่ไปของ MFC แล้วก็งานคืนนี้เมื่อสักครู่นี้ท่านก็ได้เห็นแล้วนะครับว่า MFC เนี่ยจัดตั้งกันขึ้นมา50 ปีแล้วโดยกระทรวงการคลังซึ่งท่านรัฐมนตรีว่าการกระทรวงการคลังวันนี้ก็อยู่ด้วยเพื่อมาช่วยในเรื่องของการพัฒนาตลาดทุนเป็นปีเดียวกับที่ประเทศไทยจัดตั้งตลาดหลักทรัพย์แห่งประเทศไทยเรื่องมันเกี่ยวโยงกันนะครับผมขอเรียนว่าปี 1975 ที่มีการตั้ง MFC เนี่ยเป็นปีที่การเมืองในประเทศไทยวุ่นวายมากการเมืองโลกวุ่นวายยิ่งกว่าแต่ MFC ก็เกิดได้มันเป็นหลักฐานอย่างหนึ่งว่าประเทศไทยนี่ธุรกิจเราก็เดินต่อไปการเมืองจะเป็นยังไงก็เป็นเรื่องของการเมืองไปที่จริง MFC นี่เริ่มมาตั้งแต่สมัยรัฐบาลอาจารย์สัญญาธรรมศักดิ์โดยท่านอาจารย์บุญมาวงศ์สวรรค์เป็นรัฐมนตรีคลังตอนนั้นปี 74 แล้วก็ต่อมา 75 พอมาถึง 75 ก็เปลี่ยนเป็นรัฐบาลเสนีประโมทเดือนเดียวเปลี่ยนเป็นรัฐบาลครึ่งฤทธิ์ประโมทมีเสียงในสภาแค่18 เสียงวันที่ท่านอาจารย์ครึ่งฤทธิ์ได้รับโปรดเกล้าเนี่ยคือ 14 มีนาคมผมจำได้ดีวันเกิดวันเดียวกับ MFC ผมอยู่ในเหตุการณ์นะครับก็ได้เห็นเหตุการณ์เกิดขึ้นในการเปลี่ยนแปลงรัฐบาลแล้วก็การเปลี่ยนแปลงนโยบายต่างๆเพราะฉะนั้นอันนี้ก็เป็นการเกิดในภาวะของการเมืองในประเทศท่านก็คงจะทราบว่าการเมืองต่างประเทศเนี่ยวุ่นคล้ายๆกับวันนี้แหละครับก็คืออเมริกากำลังเปลี่ยนขั้วตอนนั้นพยายามจะไปดีกับจีนท่านคงจำได้นิกสันไปหาเมาเซตุงปี 1974เพื่อจะได้ช่วยกันต่อต้านรัสเซียสงครามเวียดนามก็จบในปี 75 คล้ายๆกับปี 2025 นี้ใช่ไหมครับที่อเมริกากำลังจะเปลี่ยนขั้วเช่นเดียวกันเพราะฉะนั้นสรุปก็คือว่าธุรกิจของไทยเนี่ยเราสามารถตั้งขึ้นมาได้แล้วก็สนองนโยบายของรัฐบาลซึ่งเรียนให้ท่านทั้งหลายได้ทราบนะครับว่า MFC นี่เป็นหน่วยงานที่ทางกระทรวงการคลังทางรัฐบาลเนี่ย ใช้เป็นหน่วยงานที่พัฒนาตลาดทุนตอนที่เรามีการจัดตั้งกลต.ปี 92-93 กระทรวงคลังก็เปิดเสรีให้มีบริษัทจัดการการลงทุนทั่วไปหมดเลยก่อนหน้านั้นเราเป็นโมโนโปลีอยู่เจ้าเดียวแต่กระทรวงการคลังใจกล้ามากนะครับให้มีบริษัทเป็นจำนวนมากเปิดขึ้นแล้วก็ทำธุรกิจทางด้านการลงทุนซึ่งก็ยิ่งทำให้มีการพัฒนาเกิดขึ้นแล้วก็ที่สำคัญนะครับพอเรามีวิกฤตทางด้านการเงินปี 97-98 ก็นำไปสู่ธุรกิจเกี่ยวกับเรื่องตลาดพันธบัตรซึ่งท่านนายกทักษิณเนี่ยครับที่นั่งอยู่ที่นี่เลยแหละเป็นผู้ที่เริ่มในเรื่องของการส่งเสริมตลาดพันธบัตรโดยให้ตลาดพันธบัตรของรัฐบาลเนี่ยมีอายุยาวขึ้น30 ปีเป็นครั้งแรกในตอนนั้นแล้วเนื่องจากว่าบริษัทเอกชนกู้เงินยากก็มาเกิดเป็นตลาดพันธบัตรของเอกชนเป็นการทำที่ดีกว่าเรา MFC นี่รัฐบาลใช้หลายเรื่องตอนที่มีปัญหาวิกฤต 97-98 มี property เสียหายหลายอย่างรัฐบาลก็ตั้ง property fund ขึ้นมาสมัยท่านทักษิณเช่นเดียวกันมีสึนามิปี 2004 ก็ตั้งกองมาฟื้นฟูทั้งหมดที่หาดเขาหลักที่พังงานี่ก็ MFC เหมือนกันนะครับวายุพักก็ MFC เหมือนกันเพราะฉะนั้นเรียนยืนยันนะครับว่า MFC นี่เป็นหน่วยงานของกระทรวงการคลังที่ใช้เป็นเครื่องมือในการพัฒนาตลาดทุนแล้วก็ช่วยตลาดเงินตลาดทุนในยามวิกฤตทีนี้วันนี้เวลานี้นี่ปัญหาที่มันมีเนี่ยนะครับก็คือว่าผมไปเจอข้อความของบลูมเบิร์กที่วิเคราะห์ตลาดเงินตลาดทุนประเทศไทยแล้วเขาบอกว่าเราเนี่ยตลาดเงินตลาดทุนเหมือนเป็น first world เป็นโลกที่1แต่เศรษฐกิจไทยเหมือนเป็นโลกที่3ผมดูแล้วเขาดูถูกเรามากเลยอะแปลว่าเราคงจะใช้เงินลงทุนไม่เป็นเพราะฉะนั้นผมคิดว่าวันนี้เวลานี้เนี่ยเราคงอยากที่จะมาฟังนะครับว่าโอกาสในเรื่องของการลงทุนทั้งหลายวิธีการลงทุนทั้งหลาย Product ทั้งหลายขบวนการทั้งหลายที่กำลังเปลี่ยนแปลงไปอย่างรวดเร็วเนี่ยมันเป็นยังไง MFC สนใจมากแล้วรัฐบาลแน่ใจว่าสนใจมากก็คงจะให้ MFC เนี่ยช่วยในเรื่องของการพัฒนากิจกรรมต่างๆเหล่านี้ต่อไปการที่เราจะมีงานในวันนี้เนี่ยนะครับมีการบรรยายพิเศษแล้วก็มีการสนทนาเป็นแพนเนลเกี่ยวกับเรื่องธุรกิจโอกาสใหม่ในอนาคตซึ่งเราจะเริ่มโดยมีการบรรยายพิเศษจากคุณคริสแบรดลีย์ซึ่งท่านมาจากแมคเคนซี่พวกเราทั้งหลายรู้จักกันดีนะครับว่าแมคเคนซี่แอนด์โคนี่ถือเป็นบริษัทยอดเยี่ยมในเรื่องของ consulting ในโลกนี้ผมก็ขอเปิดงานและขอขอบคุณทุกท่านนะครับที่มาร่วมงานในคืนวันนี้ขอหวังว่าท่านคงจะได้ประโยชน์อย่างยิ่งจากการรับฟังการบรรยายของพิเศษของคุณคริสแบรดลีย์และจะมีแพนเนลสุดพิเศษอีกอันหนึ่งซึ่งชื่อทั้งหลายก็จะปรากฏอยู่ในเอกสารของท่านและจะปรากฏในจอต่อไปผมขอขอบคุณนะครับขอสวัสดีครับก็เริ่มงานได้เลยครับสวัสดีครับ
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's an incredible honour to be here for this very special occasion. 50 years ago today, MFC was born, the same year that Microsoft sparked a tech revolution. And MFC has proven that it can fund both Thailand's past and its future, from factories to digital frontiers. And I hope going forward, this balance of legacy and innovation will continue to inspire. In 1975, Thailand was a nation of 40 million with just 20% living in cities. Its GDP per capita stood at $2,800, a modest rural economy where over 60% of people scraped by below the poverty line, earning less than $2 a day. Literacy was okay, but only 30% of kids reached secondary school, and higher education was a very rare 3%. This was Thailand before its industrial leap. This may surprise you, but I have a vivid memory of this. I was also born in 1975, like MFC, and as a 5-year-old, I moved to Thailand, and I lived down Suk 31. I remember the floods when it rained. I remember drinking Coke out of a plastic bag. I remember the monks collecting their daily rice, and the wet markets and the mad traffic, and I fell in love with this place, and a love that continues to this day. Fast forward to today, and Thailand's now 70 million people enjoy a GDP per capita that's 7 times higher, powered by factories and technology. Poverty is less than 6%. Half the nation now is urbanised, and education's roared ahead, with 50% of young people getting a tertiary education. This is an incredible journey for Thailand. And this rise mirrors that of ASEAN as a whole, a region that was once less than 2% of the global economy, now represents 6.5%, 680 million people. So, as we celebrate MFC's 50th anniversary, Thailand now stands at the dawn of a new era, brimming with opportunity but not without challenge. And as I'll discuss in this talk here, there's a whole new set of arenas that Thailand must muster. And Thailand and ASEAN has a ticket to play, but there's some real question marks to be resolved. Today, you see, we start at a very different point from 1975. Growth won't come easy anymore from urbanisation, from capitalisation, industrialisation, and demographics. Thailand's going to need to build new strengths and overcome skill gaps and the headwinds of ageing. You know, the fertility rate in Thailand, I learned today, is only 1.5. And it's going to have to do all this in an incredibly different geostrategic environment. There was talk before about Nixon coming to Asia and trying to rewrite the geostrategic map of the world, and the same thing is happening again today. So this is Thailand's moment, and maybe MFC's as well, to either seize that future or falter. So it brings me to tonight's presentation. We've recently republished this report. It's reverberated all around the world because it's a topic that's important. And it started when we sought to understand the absolutely remarkable dynamics of the industrial economy in the 2000s. One way of understanding this is to look at the top 10 companies of the world, which, by the way, today make up more than 1/3 of the S&P 500. So these top 10 companies really matter. In 2005, we had a list you'd expect in any industrial economy. You know, makers, financiers, energizers, retailers. You'll notice Microsoft is there, whose birthday was the same as yours. The single tech company. Now, fast forward to 2025, and it's a radically different landscape. Yes, there's been some recent ups and downs in markets, but this does not change the answer. Only Microsoft survived. 9 of the 10 companies are different. And those traditional firms like GE got replaced with giants who are 10 times bigger. They average $2 trillion of market cap. and they represent a whole new set of industries. So something incredible is happening, and it turns out there's no fluke to this industrial logic because they all came from industries we call arenas of competition. Let me tell you a little bit about them. So how do I understand this industrial landscape? Well, let's put it on a map. Here's our map. It's got two dimensions. The first dimension, you'll understand. It's easy. Where is the value going? That's across the bottom. Across the side, though, is a different axis, and it's about how much change and dynamism is there. To use our term, what we mean is how quickly are the deck of players getting reshuffled and how many new cards are getting added to the deck. So how fast are these industries changing with new players? So the first set of industries I'll put here are our normal industries. They work on our normal economic playbook. It's like banks and energy companies and manufacturers. In fact, many of the companies that are present in Thailand are in these grey zones. They took a lower share of growth and they showed much less economic dynamism, much less change in their industries. But here's what happened over this period, though. There's a whole new set of industries that emerged. We call them arenas of competition. They played by completely different rules. They include things like software, the cloud, EVs, semiconductors, and of course, internet companies. And even though these industries were only about 10% of corporate revenues, they represented 50% of the growth in market cap. Now, these industries stood apart. They had much faster growth, much more R&D, far greater profitability. You can see that, more than double. Much bigger size. This is the realm of giants. And much more new companies. In these new arenas, 33% of the value came from companies that weren't even playing in 2005. So these are places where they're like nebulas, new companies are formed. Think about Tesla. In 2005, it was a very small startup. So there's something qualitatively different about these arenas. And it's not just different in the where to compete, it's also different in the how to compete. The model of competition in these arenas is different. Let me show you one extremely vivid example. And that is in the realm of investment. So this is just 6 companies, only 6. And yes, these companies have huge valuations and huge profitability, but what you can't forget is that's backed by huge investment, what we call escalation. If you want to play in a new arena, it's a whole different level of competition. Just these 6 companies spent $500 billion in R&D and CapEx last year. To put that in perspective, the Apollo program was about half that in today's dollars, but that was spent over 13 years, not 1. So the level of investment that's happening in these arenas is crazy. And it's one that means you've got to be very serious about, can you play this game and are you going to play this game? Because these escalations make competition in these arenas much more like a tournament than traditional day-to-day industrial competition. They fight really hard to win the gold, and it's worth a lot to win the gold medal. But then the Olympics comes by every 4 years, and you have to do it all again. This creates an ever-increasing cycle of investment and scaling that we can see here. Well, this brings us to ASEAN and Thailand. Where did all this happen? If we look at the past 12 arenas, more than 80% of it was about the US and about China. In fact, one analysis I saw recently showed that since 1975, which is a year that comes up a lot tonight for good reasons, the US has generated about 75 new companies that are worth $10 billion or more. 75 new companies worth $10 billion or more. But Europe, over that time, has only created 10. But it's even more extreme when you look at the value. Those new US large companies are worth about 70 times more than the European ones. So there's something going on here that's very special and very new, but also very, very different between locations. And that brings us to ASEAN, which really did not meaningfully participate in this new industrial revolution. You might need to get your magnifying glass out to see the little orange on the side. That's ASEAN. Its companies in the arenas are worth less than 1% of the total. So what does that mean? It means ASEAN, if it's going to play in the next set of arenas, is going to need to do something different than what got it here. What's going to get us there is different than what got us here. Let me repeat my analysis of the top 10 companies. So unlike the global top 10, the ASEAN top 10 companies have not been revolutionised to the same extent. While the global top 10 company expanded its value 8 times, in ASEAN that was just 4 times. And while half of them are new, only 2 come from the new arenas. Now, one part of this is a legacy of state ownership. In 2005, 7 of those companies had strong state involvement on the share register, and this is just 2 now, it's lessened. And certainly there's some world-beating companies. Every bank in the world admires DBS, for example. PT Burrito is helping drive the renewables rollouts. You've got C Limited, you've got Trip.com. But there's no Thai companies, is there? PTT remains the biggest, but at 25 billion doesn't make the top 10 anymore. So let's look forward. Having understood what an arena is and what makes it special, oh dear. If you could advance the slide for me, please, that would be very much appreciated. There we go. Thank you very much. Having understood why arenas form and what makes them special, we then shifted our sights to the future. What would the next big arenas be by 2040? We started with a long list of 65 industries, but here are the 18 that we ended up with. I'm going to take you through them now. First, the foundation is semiconductors. This has stopped working, so if you can advance the slide for me, that would be terrific. Thank you. First is semiconductors. Moore's law has been going for 5 decades now, and we've seen it, now we see a new era of computation ushered in with AI. That's going to add $2 trillion. Second, we have the continued expansion of the digital economy, which is really still at a midpoint. And this adds e-commerce, advertising, video, and games. This gives us a huge 21 trillion hit of revenue. Next, of course, what everyone's talking about, AI. This will revolutionize how our economies work, and in the meantime, add about $7 trillion of new revenue. Now, these are really big numbers. Just to put it in context, by the way, the entire US economy is 30 trillion. Fourth, electrification is a really massive trend. It's a mega trend that will bring another 6 trillion in the form of 4 arenas: EVs, shared autonomous vehicles, batteries, and nuclear power to energize it all. Next, new biofrontiers. Ozempic and other drugs are already changing our metabolism of entire populations. And when they get cheaper, it's going to unlock enormous industries. Industrial biotech too is on the cusp of solving for new materials. That's another $1 trillion. Finally, we talk a lot about the digital world, but the physical world is going to get invaded too by new arenas. Modular construction will massively impact the way we build and hopefully bring productivity to one of the world's most important industries that has not had productivity. Drones, robots, and spaceships are going to bring a science fiction dream into a reality. And robots in particular are getting unlocked by AI, because we've seen in our own lives how AI has mastered language, but it will soon enable the level of dexterity and physical logic that allows robots to be in the real world rather than just in a factory. Add another 3 trillion. So put it all together, I've got these massive numbers. I've got 29 to 48 trillion of revenue. By the way, that translates to 2 to 6 trillion of profit after tax. This would represent 1/3 of all GDP growth over this period. And this is from a collection of industries that today amounts to only 4% of the global economy. That's the thing about arenas. a lot of the industrial action is packed into a small part of the overall economy. You have to choose where to play very wisely. Let's get to the so what for ASEAN and Thailand. There's two angles. First is the demand side. Huge TAM. Asia Pacific will be by far the biggest market for these new arenas, up to 21 trillion of revenue, almost twice as much as Europe. Just robotics alone could be a $600 billion market here. And this is where the action is going to be. It's where the customers are. Already, ASEAN, as I mentioned before, has 680 million people, more than double the US. So that's demand. That's the demand side. What about the supply side? Well, first of all, in really important and competitive global value chains, ASEAN and Thailand have shown that they can step up to the plate. You can see Thailand got more of its market share in the automotive chain, and transitioning this is going to be important. But ASEAN in general has been an incredibly important part of these emerging global value chains. But if we look at where large company revenue is today, and here I'm talking about large companies that are based here, where you control the destiny, it does shift on the simpler side of the economy. This is a chart showing revenues of ASEAN firms of firms that are large enough to have 50 million or more of revenue. There are still arenas to play for here, like, for example, Indonesia's role in the emerging battery economy, but it tells me there's going to have to be a pivot if you're going to play in the right spaces of the future. This is where intentional investment is going to come into play. So let me try and think about this like a strategist. What are the strike zones for you in this market? So I look where you have some industrial base and existing capability first. That's what I call strike zone 1. This gives me 6 arenas that are in play for you. In zone 2, I put in industrial centres and capabilities that are adjacent, where there's some nascent capability and where you can leverage what you have today. This adds another 7. The rest I'm going to put in strike zone 3. I'm not saying they're impossible, but I'm saying they're on trajectories that are a long way away from you and moving very, very fast. So it would be unrealistic to think that you're going to catch up in a lot of these places. But going back to our overall revenue pools, what you can see is strike zone 1 is absolutely massive. So e-commerce is a big part of that, and that operates at a lower margin. But even if I take that out, I still have $7 to $11 trillion of revenue in this strike zone. And just the profit pool in this strike zone alone globally is going to be 3 trillion, up to 3 trillion. If I add zone 2 as well, I've got 4.5 trillion. That's bigger than the entire GDP of ASEAN today. So going back to the present, one thing we learned about arenas when we looked at how they form is they don't start from nothing. Back in 2005, we already had the first Tesla. Toyota had popularized the hybrid with great batteries. Amazon was already a household name. TSMC had well and truly established the foundry model. Netflix had already disrupted video rentals and was about to enter streaming. So today, if Thailand and ASEAN is going to be serious about playing in these arenas, we should see signs of it. So what do we see today? Well, let's have a look at just a few examples. EVs. Thailand is already a growing hub for EV manufacture, but it still remains a node in the network rather than the driver. That's something to think about. Batteries. Indonesia is building Asia's first gigafactory with LG and Hyundai. Semiconductor. Penang's already 5% of global semiconductor exports. Vietnam rising fast. Think about, for example, huge investments from Intel and Amkor in facilities, and Samsung's $3.3 billion R&D centre they're building. Biotech, here in this room, we've got Better Grow, we've got CP Food. They're making big moves in precision fermentation, bio-based animal feed. They're both making really big and important moves in this space. But in Singapore, Turtle Tree, Ento from Malaysia, they're working on synthetic and alternative proteins. E-commerce, ASEAN has a huge e-commerce scene, 460 million internet users. We see players like Shopee, Tokopedia and Tiki doing interesting things. Future air mobility. Malaysia's Aonic is using drones to improve farm productivity. In Singapore, Skyports operates a ship-to-shore delivery service in the port of Geelong. In space, Thailand's active with MuSpace, while Singapore's equatorial space focused on hybrid rockets and Vietnam's FPT works on Earth observation for agricultural applications. So we have signs of life in these new arenas. We know we need to do a pivot. We know we have the demand. We have the beginnings of the supply. And if something special happens, we'll be able to play a much bigger role in the next set of arenas than we did in the past. So let me wrap up with just three thoughts for you. First of all, as famously quoted, predictions are pretty hard. Of course, the world is going to evolve in unexpected ways, but that should not prevent us from being bold in taking a view. Second, as we've seen, the future arrives unevenly. There are already traces of these new arenas at play today. And if we look and we're creative and we keep an open mind, we're going to find them today. And third, the best way to understand the future is to make the future. And on that note, let me again congratulate MFC on their 50th anniversary and encourage everyone in this room to think boldly about shaping Thailand for the next 50 years and winning in the next big arenas of competition. Thank you.
ขอบคุณครับขอต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านนะครับเข้าสู่การถ่ายทอดสดนะครับการจัดงานการจัดงาน The World's Next Opportunity and Beyond ครับ50 ปีบริษัทหลักทรัพย์จัดการกองทุน MFC จำกัดมหาชนนะครับเนื่องที่จัดขึ้นนะครับเนื่องในโอกาสการครบรอบ50 ปีครับของบริษัท MFC Asset Management จำกัดมหาชนครับก็ต้องขอต้อนรับคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านนะครับที่ติดตามรับชมครับผ่าน Facebook ของ Nation TV นะครับรวมไปถึง Facebook และ YouTube ของ MFC Asset Management นะครับเข้าสู่การจัดงานในค่ำคืนนี้นะครับซึ่งไฮไลท์สำคัญในค่ำคืนนี้ที่เราจะได้มารับฟังมุมมองในแง่มุมของการลงทุนการเงินในอนาคตครับจากคีย์แมนคนสำคัญครับดร.ทักษิณชินวัตรอดีตนายกรัฐมนตรีนะครับผู้ที่คร่ำวอดทั้งในวงการธุรกิจและวงการการเมืองของไทยนะครับแล้วก็เป็นบุคคลที่ทั่วโลกให้ความสำคัญและก็จับจ้องด้วยครับสำหรับการจัดงานในค่ำคืนนี้นะครับเราอยู่กันที่โรงแรมเซ็นทราแกนเซ็นทรัลเวิลด์ครับซึ่งการจัดงานในคืนนี้นะครับก็ได้ร่วมกันนะครับระหว่าง Nation TV ครับรวมไปถึง MFC นะครับอย่างที่ได้กล่าวไปเมื่อสักครู่นี้นะครับซึ่งเวทีนี้ก็จะเป็นเวทีในการเปิดโอกาสการลงทุนแห่งโลกอนาคตครับภายใต้แนวคิด The World Next Opportunity and Beyond ครับและที่จบไปเมื่อสักครู่นี้นะครับก็เป็นการกล่าวเปิดงานนะครับโดยคุณขออภัยครับครับและเมื่อสักครู่ที่จบไปนะครับก็เป็นการกล่าวต้อนรับแขกผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านนะครับโดยคุณณรงค์ชัยอัครเสรณีครับประธานคณะกรรมการ MFC Asset Management ครับที่ได้กล่าวต้อนรับแขกผู้ร่วมงานทุกท่านนะครับโดยระบุนะครับว่า MFC ครับได้เกิดขึ้นนะครับเพื่อช่วยพัฒนาตลาดการลงทุนครับแล้วก็ได้เกิดขึ้นในปีเดียวกันกับที่ประเทศไทยได้เปิดตลาดหลักทรัพย์ครับซึ่งในขณะนั้นนะครับแม้ว่าการเมืองไทยจะวุ่นวายนะครับแต่แล้วก็การเมืองโลกก็มีความวุ่นวายยิ่งกว่าครับแต่ว่า MFC ครับก็สามารถเดินหน้าเปิดทำการได้นะครับซึ่งก็สะท้อนนะครับว่าไม่ว่าการเมืองไทยหรือการเมืองโลกจะมีความวุ่นวายอย่างไรนะครับแต่เศรษฐกิจของไทยก็จะยังคงเดินหน้าต่อไปครับเพื่อสนองนโยบายของรัฐบาลนะครับและก็ MFC นั้นรัฐบาลครับก็ได้ใช้เป็นองค์กรหลักนะครับในการช่วยการพัฒนาตลาดทุนอย่างเช่นเมื่อการเกิดวิกฤตการณ์ทางการเงินหรือวิกฤตต้มยำกุ้งเมื่อปี 2540 นะครับก็ได้เกิดธุรกิจตลาดพันธบัตรครับซึ่งขณะนั้นก็ได้มีการริเริ่มครับโดยท่านทักษิณชินวัตรนะครับอดีตนายกรัฐมนตรีในขณะนั้นที่จัดตั้ง ตลาดพันธบัตรขึ้นมานะครับเพื่อแก้ไขปัญหาเศรษฐกิจทางการเงินในประเทศรวมถึงที่ผ่านมาครับอย่างกรณีเกิดวิกฤตภัยนะครับจากภัยธรรมชาติก็ได้มีการจัดตั้งกองทุนฟื้นฟูสึนามิขึ้นในอดีตครับดังนั้นครับ MFC ครับจึงเป็นองค์กรนะครับที่ช่วยพัฒนาตลาดทุนแล้วก็ช่วยตลาดทุนไทยในยามวิกฤตครับซึ่งในวันนี้นะครับคุณณรงค์ชัยก็ระบุนะครับว่าเป็นโอกาสที่ดีนะครับที่จะได้รับทราบแนวคิดการลงทุนที่เปลี่ยนแปลงไปอย่างรวดเร็วนะครับโดยก็ยังมีคีย์แมนสำคัญที่จะมาแลกเปลี่ยนมุมมองด้วยและขณะนี้บนเวทีก็พร้อมที่จะเข้าสู่การเสวนาแล้วนะครับเดี๋ยวเรารับชมพร้อมๆกันได้เลยครับ
Of global finance. From digital transformation to sustainable finance, the next wave of investment is being driven by visionary leaders and global pioneers. Tonight, we bring together those at the forefront of this transformation. Thaksin Chinnawat, former Prime Minister of Thailand, an economic strategist who transformed Thailand's growth model. Patrick Waluyo, co-founder of North Star Group and CEO of GoTo Group, a key figure in Indonesia's digital economy revolution. Elaine Wu, managing director and head of APAC Investment and Portfolio Solutions at BlackRock, shaping the future of institutional investment in Asia. Alex Blania, CEO and co-founder of Tools for Humanity, co-creator of World Network, leading innovation at the intersection of technology and finance. And our moderator, Sutapa Amornwiwat, founding CEO, Abacus Digital Company Limited. Together, they will explore the challenges and opportunities ahead, from Asia's economic power shift to the integration of AI and blockchain in investment strategies. Where is the financial world heading next? Welcome to Executive Panel Discussion, the world's next opportunities and beyond.
Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted and honored to be here moderating this very important discussion. We have an incredible panel lined up tonight, ranging from global investor, technology expert, statesman, and a business leader, each bringing a unique perspective on how Thailand and regional and beyond can navigate today's fast-changing environment. We will cover a broad range of topics tonight, including macroeconomic shift, investment flows, to the transformative power of AI and beyond. I hope that the discussion today will inspire you with optimism, ideas, and actions, whether in business, policy, innovation, or other domains to drive Thailand forward in a fast-changing competitive world. So please also note that we have a Q&A session at the end of the panel, so be sure to keep track of your questions you may have throughout this panel discussion. So earlier, Mr. Bradley shared his insights on the evolving industry landscapes, help identifying global arena of competition, and a focused view on Thailand and Southeast Asia. I would like to kick off by continuing our discussion on the overarching topic of change before moving on the discussion on key implications along with actions required for Thailand and Southeast Asia as a region. So let us begin with the central questions of what are the most impactful changes observed in the world today? So Dr. Thaksin, to establish a relevant context, let's begin from your perspective, from your point of view. What have been some of the biggest recent developments in the global, regional, and Thailand? Please.
Well, if you can notice that Pheu Thai Party has been promised to make Thailand as the hub on blockchain and cryptocurrency. And now after President Trump announced that he's supporting cryptocurrency, so Thailand is not very far away. So we can catch up and we will prepare. And including we plan to have sandbox in Phuket to accept crypto money, cryptocurrency. And also we will plan to do the stable coin with government bond back. So this is going to happen in next 2-3 months. And Minister of Finance is preparing on that. And besides that, we will probably have to, and the government also have SEC to amend some regulation to accept the digital asset. So this is, we pave the way for Thailand to be on par with international on the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and digital economy.
So thank you. So could you elaborate more on what would be the enabling ecosystem to make this vision of yours happen? What do you need to build first in order to make these policies happen?
I think we're working on digital wallet, which is we paved the way to to assign the digital ID to our Thai citizen. And also we will build our own national blockchain. So this should be you can see this happen by this year.
Fantastic. We have a timeline. So on that point, Patrick, how do some of the changes that Khun Thaksin mentioned previously align or reflect what you have observed in Southeast Asia region and as well as globally, so as well as from your perspective as investor and as a business leader?
So in the AI world, there is this term called distillation, whereby a small AI model, a large language model, would be learning from a bigger model. So in real world, I'm the small model, Khun Thaksin is the big model. In the past 20 years, I've been learning a lot from him, and we have been exchanging a lot of ideas about AI recently. And I would say that Khun Thaksin is probably one of the most knowledgeable leaders in this region in terms of AI. So just a little bit of a background. My company, GoTo Group, we have about 35 million users on a monthly basis. And we are in different areas. We are in ride-hailing, food delivery, payments. And we have a joint venture with TikTok Shop running our e-commerce business. We merged Tokopedia into a TikTok Shop. A year ago, I went to the US and met with all the top AI players and asked whether it is possible for us to build large language model with them for the Indonesian language. Because in our business, the local relevance and context is very important. Their response is that you can send your model to us and we'll give you a finished product. But what we decided instead is to build our own large language model. And it is a collaborative effort. We are working with Singapore. And we just launched, when Jensen Huang came, we launched our 9 billion parameters model. And we are going to launch our 72 billion parameters model next month. And as I mentioned, we are actually doing a distillation with DeepSeek. So our model, as we speak, is learning from DeepSeek. It will be done in about 3 months. So a lot of exciting things. And the reasons why we are doing this are threefold. One is that, as I mentioned to you, we need to have to offer differentiated services for our customers and reduce our cost through efficiency by using this new technology. The second part is, I think, is the more important thing, is to actually create future leaders in our company that really understand AI and the applications and whatnot. So the first part is to serve our customers to reduce our cost through efficiency, and the third one is to really build on the talent pool. Right? We are not in the short term aiming to become better than the international players, but for the local languages and local contexts, we aim to be the best one and play the long game. At the same time, we are still working with international companies in different areas. So that's one area that I'm most excited about.
So thank you, Patrick. Let me get back to you on the LLM, because I think it's very interesting for everyone, particularly that Patrick has mentioned that he actually look at what DeepSeek have done and try to replicate, that success story. So on that, Elaine, let's hear from you as well. So how do some of the changes discussed so far resonate with your experience at BlackRock? And are there any tech spaces that are too nascent in your perspective, and why?
Yeah, thanks very much for that. I think what both speakers have mentioned definitely resonate with the framework that we're using at BlackRock to think about the current macro regime. And one thing that I'll add to that in terms of changes is macro policy changes is also something that we're closely watching. The framework we're looking that we use to look at the current macro regime is looking at mega forces that's driving structural changes to the economy. They are geopolitical fragmentation, artificial intelligence, as both of you mentioned, low carbon transition, and also aging demographics. So with geopolitical fragmentation, this is happening since the end of Great Moderation. We've seen relationships of major economies changing, trade policies being announced. This is changing the way companies are thinking about their supply chains, and actually duplicative such supply chains are being built, resulting in higher cost and inflation. With artificial intelligence, there's definitely a lot of technology advancement and creating digital disruption that can result in productivity. We actually see a lot of investment opportunities in that space. With low carbon transition, this is changing the way companies and government are investing in the energy system. We've seen renewable energy increasing by 70% in production since 2019, for instance. So there's a big way to go to further transition. And last but not least, we're also looking at aging demographics, because this is something that's affecting many major economies, including the US, China, Japan, and Korea. With aging demographics, labor pools are going to be shrinking. This results in higher wages and also higher inflation. So we're operating in quite a complex macro environment right now. As you can see in recent days, markets have been very volatile. So it's hard for us to predict what's going to happen next and when it's going to happen. But what many people agree is that the uncertainty will remain and markets will continue to be volatile. So what it calls for at this time is we are advising our clients to stay with active investment and also to think about diversification within investment portfolios.
Right. any of the diversification portfolio that you mentioned reflect what Chris Bradley has mentioned early on in terms of the new arenas of competition? What will there be, especially for Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I think that presentation was amazing, especially that chart that showed Southeast Asian countries' largest cap companies, now versus 20 years ago. I mean, even though you'll see that there might have not been a lot of changes, but what it also demonstrates is there could be a lot of opportunities and white spaces for Southeast Asia.
Correct. You also mentioned about the aging population. I think Indonesia experiencing a different opportunity and problem right now. So I want to get back to Dr. Thaksin on how do you see the talent pool and the aging population would affect the change that you want to implement in the next 12 months, for example. And Alex, I want to move to you in terms of, it seems to me that many of the changes that we have discussed so far are hinged on the rapid development in technology. Being it AI, energy was also mentioned, blockchains, and as a leader who is well embedded in the discipline, what do you think, especially from the technologist perspective, are there any other transformative technologies beyond AI and that we should keep our eyes on?
Well, I think, first of all, as Thaksin mentioned, I think the crypto as a technology, blockchain as a technology, really will gain much more adoption now with the US taking a very strong stance. So President Trump is really getting behind this. The SEC changed their stance. I think we will see that leading to transformative change around that. So I think Thaksin making Thailand a leader in that space will be very important. I think within AI, so my co-founder is Sam Altman from OpenAI, and we had these discussions since now many years. I think what is now changing in AI is that the switch and the value capture is going away from the foundation models more to the applications. And I think that is where countries like Thailand can really catch up. So for example, companies in the biospace or in the synthetic biology, genetics, all of those spaces will drastically accelerate now with AI. And it will be less about the foundational models, and I think that is a shift that people maybe did not fully comprehend. And then, of course, within AI, the big change this year will be towards agentic behavior. And so currently you just ask AI a question, and it responds to the question. What we will see probably in Q3, Q4 is that these systems will start solving much longer problems for us that maybe would have taken us a couple hours, and then probably next year, early next year, mid next year, things that would have taken us a couple weeks. So could really replicate an entire software engineer that maybe is working on a somewhat complicated project. And those things combined, I think, will lead to a rapid acceleration of many of the industries that we've mentioned here. And so it is certainly an extremely exciting time. And as an American company, I'm especially excited about the coming 3-4 years.
Right. So Alex, I want to follow up on what you mentioned early on about the lack of clarity, particularly on the regulations and the policies regarding the use of blockchain, right? And the fact that the U.S. Previous government has been quite hostile to the technology and the adoption of the technology, and now that has changed under the Trump administration. My question would be, so what do you want to see as the first policy change that would make this truly transformative?
In the U.S.?
In the U.S., and I think we can take the lessons from that to this region as well.
Well, so the administration already took a very, very strong stance within the first couple weeks. Last week, we've participated in the crypto summit in Washington, where the President Trump listened to all the crypto leaders. And I think the first major step was that the SEC stopped acting on enforcement. So all the big crypto companies basically got a letter of enforcement by the SEC over the last 2 years. all of that has been stopped. And now the next thing that will need to happen is clear regulation. And so the SEC is now working with many of the large crypto companies in the US to work out kind of a real clear regulatory framework that everyone can follow. And that's going to be the next major step. Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Thaksin, now that we hear what Alex has mentioned about the US space, do you feel that Thailand would adopt or change any of that movement that we are seeing being implemented in the US?
Let me elaborate on what's happening now in Thailand. After I came back, I've been talking with so many people that want to invest in Thailand, especially in data center, in AI, cloud, and we think that we can have a lot of investment on data center, but data center is compared like a crude oil. If you don't have AI, you don't have refinery, so it's no use, and it consumes a lot of electricity. Therefore, everyone that come here, they keep asking about clean energy and cheap energy. Now our energy cost is about 11 cents. The world talking about 2 cents or 6 cents at least. So Thailand, we plan to bring the cost of electricity from 11 cents down to 8 cents we'll try to do it by next year. But it's quite difficult, but we'll try. If we want to be competitive in this, the race for AI, so you need to have more clean energy and not too expensive.
I think this is very interesting, bringing down from 11 cents to 2 cents. That would be a big challenge. And I want to pose that to Elaine on that front, because you're an expert on sustainability. Just want to ask, would like to ask on the topic that as the President of the United States take a strong opposing position to the tackling climate change, do you think, how would you comment on the current situation related to policies on the green energy, on what has been about to be implemented and what has been laying the foundation in the last 4 years?
Sure. In the recent years, we've actually seen a resurgence of industrial and trade policy that has protected domestic companies. This has created economic distortions and an oversupply in things like electric vehicle, solar cells, and batteries. That in turn drove down prices, but increased the adoption of these cleaner form of energies. But then that also reduced profitability of these types of companies. And what happened, if you look at the performance of clean energy stocks in the public markets in the last 2 years, is that they have underperformed. Now, looking at the 2024 presidential elections, since then there has been further shift in energy, trade, and industrial policies. This is officials balancing between security of energy to affordability to decarbonization. In the near term, what this means is that this could potentially limit the speed at which low carbon energy sources increase or grow in total energy mix. In the longer term, the outlook could be less certain. On one hand, you have things and advancement like artificial intelligence, and also innovations in things like nuclear power as well as geothermal. On the other side, we need to see what the national policy is like, whether or not these things could go ahead. So in this complex environment, what we think active investing will remain very important. And in terms of the opportunity set, we're currently looking at within the public equity space, things like utilities, electric equipment, as well as power grids, which will benefit from rising power demand.
I see. So overall, would you say that Southeast Asia remain attractive for investment in comparison? And why is that the case? What's the strongest pull factors?
Yeah, so what we're currently positively looking at is infrastructure investment, especially in private markets. Things that intersect between some of the mega forces that I talked about. So artificial intelligence, transition, and geopolitical fragmentation. What I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. So things like investing in an infrastructure like an renewable power plant that can power the energy needs of an AI data center. Why we like that is because there's a steady demand from the AI data center. It's a long-term fixed investment that can provide very attractive cash yield, right? With geopolitical fragmentation, we're also seeing opportunities in infrastructure needing to build out supply chain. So these are the types of opportunities we're currently examining, and there could be very well opportunities in this region as well.
Great. Thank you. I want to move back to Patrick. You have mentioned the word talent, right? You want to build the tech talent within the country so that they are well trained in their domestic LLM language. If you can elaborate a little more on the lack of, or in fact, the improving situations on the tech talent sphere.
So when we started our company about 10 years ago, there was absolutely no tech talent in Indonesia, so we built a tech center in India. We actually at one point had 4 tech centers in India. Today we still have 1,000 engineers in Bangalore and in Gurgaon, New Delhi. And we just opened new tech centers in Shanghai, Beijing, Chengdu, and Hangzhou. But unlike 10 years ago, we now have a much bigger tech center in Jakarta, and it's a lot easier for us to recruit Indonesian engineers, especially young ones, because they had seen what we had done, and because of the scarcity, the pay is also relatively good. So this is the pull factor of young Indonesians going to computer science school. So my strong view is that a country like Indonesia, maybe like Thailand, needs to have a strong local tech ecosystem. It's not that we are anti-international players, but by having local tech ecosystems, we can actually bring all the expertise from all different parts of the world, but then have these people train and inspire the young local talents, right? So that's my strong view, because when we talk about AI data center today, the biggest demand is not from domestic. There's international demand, but where's the local demand is going to come from? In our case, we are building our LLM as an open source, and because we know that we have limited resources, we are asking all Indonesian tech media companies, governments, universities to contribute data to help us build this, and everybody can download and use this model. And we have an affiliate company which is in AI data center, and they'll sell the compute power to help these people run the model. That's how we envisage that the local ecosystem will develop.
See, you also mentioned artificial intelligence a lot. So in this age of generative AI, that leads you to build your own LLM model, right? That large data, the large language model in Indonesia. My question is, as we move forward, there's a lot of promise and challenges of building generative AI and also agentic AI that Alex mentioned early on. Do you feel that the tech talent in the region, let's zoom into Indonesia, do you feel that when they will be ready to take on?
I do not know the answer, and I don't know whether it is actually relevant. It's a relevant question because if you don't try, you never know.
Correct.
Right? And my view is that, again, we need to work with talents from all around the world. But I assume that in Thailand it's similar to Indonesia, if not more prevalent. The local context, the local nuances, none of the international players today can compete with local players because you can crawl the internet and download all this local information, but there's still rich data sitting in universities, in governments that are not yet on the internet, and that's the national assets that I think can be harnessed, and it will take time, but I am confident that it could develop over time.
So, Dr. Thaksin, do you feel that it's the same issue in Thailand in terms of the shortage of the tech talents, and we need to build the stronger foundations and also building the tech community so that the application of these artificial intelligence technologies can be applied to Thailand?
I have an ambition because in general we are still not on par with the country like China or US yet. So, but we have to. I'm dream to train Thai people that they should have AI literacy within 10 years, because AI is going to be involved in our life much more, and AI actually it can enhance productivity for us if we can know how to use it. And I met several people now. I try to adapt what the world has been advanced in AI on how can we adapt to Thai situation. For example, the Chinese company came to me talking about AI hospital. Actually, in physical, we have a lot of physical infrastructure. But if we embrace the AI technology into what we already have, it will enhance productivity a lot. So we can, let's say like the district hospital, small one with one doctor, sometimes no doctor. The AI can be a doctor. They can read the analysis. They can do analysis on behalf of the doctor. So this can be, we can bring to Thailand. We don't have to wait until that we can do everything, but we can embrace what we already have in the world to our existing facility. This is what I think, but we should start from today.
Certainly, and that's a grand vision indeed. So on that, I want to ask Alex, which given that AI seems to be a recurring theme throughout our discussion, so I want to deep dive into this topic a little bit. So you have once remarked that AI could be the most transformative technology in human history. Could you elaborate on what full potential of this technology look like? Is it something that's similar to what Dr. Thaksin has mentioned, or actually beyond that? And what is the enabling ecosystem or infrastructure that's required to make this truly transformative?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of new things to say here because I think everyone talks about AI a lot these days. But I think, of course, AI will transform basically every industry. I think we already see across the sciences, chemistry, biology, medicine, all of those fields will rapidly accelerate. And I think the rate of acceleration is always hard to really understand. And it would not surprise me if something that currently takes us 10 years is gonna come down to a year. So like a 10x improvement in many of those fields, I think is what we will look towards in the next 5 years. And the things that I'm personally most excited about are actually probably in the biological or medical area, because I think that is where kind of what AI is so good at is reasoning about kind of large data sets, complicated correlations between many things that come together, and I think that is especially the case in biology and medicine. And so that is something that I'm personally most excited about. Things like gene editing and kind of solving long-standing problems in that area, I think will happen, and that is something to be really excited about. I think what Dr. Thaksin mentioned around the need for energy is definitely a core problem, and I think countries will see, as Dr. Thaksin described, that whoever has the kind of the lowest cost of energy will attract massive investment from around the world, because that is the fundamental commodity that everything will come down to, and whoever wins that race will win the race for compute and therefore the race for investment. And quickly talking about energy, of course there's already, we can do a lot today, but I think when we now talk about a 10-year time horizon, what we will see is smaller scale fission reactors. There's a lot of progress, a lot of investment in that area happening. And I do think that we are about 3 to 5 years away from the first energy positive fusion reactor. It will not be price competitive for quite a while, but I think 10 to 20 years, a lot of new technologies will enter the energy space. So energy is truly the core infrastructure for AI, of course. And then chips, we have a massive choke point right now in the entire industry that is on kind of the core of the chip manufacturing, TSMC. And we now see a lot of investment, of course, into that kind of fundamental chip layer. I mean, Sam announced Project Stargate that is investing $500 billion into compute, and they will also invest a lot of research. That is something to look out for. And then something, of course, that I personally work on is that I think the internet as a whole will really start changing because most of the interactions, most of the traffic on the internet will actually be AI driven, because these agents, we will send them off to work on things for us, do things for us. They will interact with the websites, with the services. They will start being with us on the social network. So the internet will change quite drastically, and we will need new infrastructure to handle that as well.
I see. And to follow up on what Alex has mentioned, Patrick, I want to ask you what do you see as the competitive advantage of Southeast Asia in capturing this trend?
Well,
being it energy, being it talent, being it a growing demand.
Well, we have abundant energy in the case of Indonesia. We have plenty of inexpensive source of power, and we have a big population in Southeast Asia. And I think it is also one of the areas where we are pretty neutral in the geopolitical space. So I think if we play it smartly, we can benefit from this new reality, if you will. So I think there are a lot of advantages, right? As Elaine mentioned, that Southeast Asia has become an attractive destination for Chinese players to come in, and it's up to us how we collaborate, how we want to collaborate. As Dr. Thaksin mentioned, we have in our company we collaborate with a lot of Chinese companies, and we learn tremendously from them. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in this region.
So Elaine, follow up on what Patrick highlighted. Thailand does not enjoy the same advantages that Indonesia has enjoyed, right? Energy being one of them. The growing population, our population is approaching the aging society very quickly. What do you want to see done in order to make Thailand an attractive investment for global investors such as BlackRock?
Actually, I thought what Dr. Taksin mentioned was very attractive about the reduction of power cost, and then also resonates with the need. I mean, the global power demand increase in the last couple of years, I think caught some of the market participants off guard, and it's actually not only renewable power being used, but also traditional energy sources had to be deployed to meet that demand. So I think that's definitely one. And in addition to that, I think if we go back to what I discussed about the mega forces, artificial intelligence, the transition are two, but there's also aging demographics, which is a challenge, but at the same time, it could also potentially be an opportunity. So I think Dr. Taksin, you also mentioned about maybe there's use of AI as diagnostic tools. Thailand is already a tourism hub for medical tourism. Could there be potential for growth in that area? So I think Southeast Asia is a very interesting region in that each country offers something different. And I think from an investment perspective, investors would go granular and may not look at it as a whole, but see where the differences are and capture those opportunities.
If I may add one thing, I think the leadership also makes a lot of difference. What I have seen in Thailand, when I talk to Dr. Taksin, the vision is very clear and the execution is high quality. And Thailand moves very fast, right? And I was with Dr. Taksin when President Prabowo called earlier today and asked Dr. Taksin to become his advisor for the development of our new sovereign wealth fund. And I think if we collaborate, this region can be really, really attractive. What I had seen from the investor perspective is that the problem with Southeast Asia is that the supply of good opportunities in the past maybe 3-5 years has been quite limited. So I believe that the next few years will be very interesting for Southeast Asia.
So I think we have now shifted gear towards more country-specific discussion. So I want to ask Dr. Taksin on, for our conversation so far, I can feel the sense of urgency. So what would be the consequence of inaction for Thailand? What must we act? Why must we act now? Sorry, what would be the consequence of inaction in Thailand? Because so far, of what we discussed on this panel, energy efficiency, the lack of talent, the lack of tech talent, the aging population. So we feel the sense of urgency that Thailand would need a very clear, focused, deliberate industry policy. So what would be what would that policy look like? And what would be the consequence if we do not take action?
We need to take action now, especially on the digital economy, especially on when people talking about AI. So like I said, what we already have a physical facility. If we can embrace more technology, it will allow us to be more relevant to the world. Otherwise, if we just ignore it, we will be lag behind. But many obstacles that we have, especially the technology that we probably need talent from outside to help us. So we probably have to recruit outside talent to join us, to help us to increase the ability to cope with digital economy, especially the AI. We do have some strong point that we can invite those who can invest in AI hub to come here, especially the healthcare, food. We still have tourism. We can invite them to come to invest here, and they'll help us grow significantly.
When we talk about the tech success story, I want to move to Patrick. That many of the Indonesian tech success stories came from the fact that these startups aim to be a regional player from day one. So why don't we see much of that trend in other startups in Thailand? Or whether that's a fair observation? And are there any lessons that we in Thailand, Thai company, can draw from other countries?
So when I stepped into my current position as CEO of GoTo, we did a whole review of our e-commerce business. At that time, we were probably the second largest player, but we were losing market share quite rapidly, and our business was not growing. And what we discovered, what we learned is that our technology stacks on every single faucet was inferior to our Chinese competition. Our competition also had a lot more assortment, and they had better talents, and they had a lot more money. So promotions, they can spend money on promotions. So we decided that rather than fight, we merged it with TikTok Shop. And from that partnership, I think one of the most important things is that we learned how to build a better and more competitive tech capability. I think one thing that we learned from the Chinese player is that it is in their DNA to make sure that the cost structure is really the lowest. So I think to make the technology really scalable. And in order for us to get there, we felt that we needed to strengthen our core market first, to make a strategic retreat, strengthen our core capabilities, and then expand again regionally when we are ready, right? So it's I don't know whether I answer your questions, but the reality is that we are competing with global players out there, and we need to compete from the position of strength.
That is very telling, and I want to pose the next questions to Elaine. So Mr. Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, he said at the World Economic Forum earlier in January that the very foundation of capital market is any entrepreneurs or company, big or small, can find capital. And that the foundation of the capital raising allows entrepreneurism and creativity. And that's how the US economic growth can leap ahead of everyone right now. How do reflect on this idea of capital as a catalyst of growth? What are the most critical gaps in Southeast Asia currently, and how can the region ensure that it can secure long-term capital?
Yeah, if we think about the flow of capital, right, we've seen increase of investments in artificial intelligence, where large technology companies have announced hundreds of billions of investments in capital expenditure in the space. We've also seen renewable power investment increasing by 350 billion per year since 2019. So in Southeast Asia, by the way, the investment in renewable power last year was 15 billion, and according to estimates from IEA, that number to be doubling in 10 years. So with all that under context, if we think about all these opportunities that are out there, and then think about when we're making investment, what are investors looking for, right? Especially with infrastructure long-term assets. Typically, these investments are for 20 years or more. You're making an investment that you're looking to generate very stable cash yield so that you can have a good internal return on that initial investment. And what's needed to facilitate that is an off-take contract, for instance, a customer or the government or somebody who's willing to sign that long-term contract equivalent to the asset life of about 20 to 30 years, that this way you have visibility of that cash flow. So that's a requirement, the demand, right? And then added on top of that, from the investor's perspective, you also want the assurance that if anything were to go wrong, if the other party does not follow through with the contract, that there's a legal system in place that you can follow through. So I would say, like, using that as an example, these are things that a typical investor would consider when we're making long-term investments. And as long as the jurisdictions provide that type of visibility, whether it be the demand side of things, the supply side, is it a favorable environment where the cost of making that investment is good, then if all those stars are aligned, then that would be the ideal place to get the investment.
Thank you. Now that we touch upon governance structure, I want to move a little bit into Alex, asking, given the rapid rise of adoption of AI technology, concerns related to AI's ethics as well as social impacts have become increasingly relevant. Definitely for generative AI and even more so for agentic AI, right? So how can we ensure that the tech that we can build is the tech that we finally should build?
It's a good question. I think, of course, before we really get there, I think fundamentally all of those technologies are reasons to be really, really excited about. And of course, there's a lot of conversation about the concerns of AI. Will it take away jobs? What are all the bad things it will do? That is not how we win the future. Fundamentally, AI will make us more productive, and it will accelerate the economy as a whole. And so fundamentally, I think there's many, many more reasons to be excited about. And now talking about the things that I think we need to react to, or maybe change, build technologies for, or do kind of strong political moves in. I think first, what we will see in the coming 12 months is, as I mentioned before, with that move of strong agentic AI systems, we will need to build digital infrastructure that actually can handle that. And for example, President Trump is really concerned about deepfakes and about bots and kind of all these technologies that will influence our social networks and our messaging services, all the ways we act out our democracies. And so we need a lot of technologies for that. That is number one. Number two, I think we need to find ways to really have as many people as possible use AI in their daily lives to learn new things, get more productive in their work. And so I think things that important leaders like Dr. Thaksin can do is encourage the population and especially the younger people in the country to adopt AI and really use it, lean into it, and not shy away from it. And and then certainly all the things that we already discussed, which is, I think, building the fundamental infrastructure like energy, international investments that should come to Thailand.
So thank you. I think we are moving into the closing thoughts on what you would like to share to our audience on how Thailand can continue to stay competitive. So I want to conclude our discussion on an actionable manner. I would like to ask each of our panelists to respond to this one question. What would be the one single key action you would like to see in Thailand over the next 12 months? Who would you like to start first? I would ask Dr. Thaksin to answer last then.
Key action for Thailand.
Key action. One key action for Thailand. I'll ask you to answer last. So any volunteer to go first? Otherwise, I'll call Mr. Patrick.
I don't know whether I'm the best qualified person.
What would you like
answer.
to see?
Well, in the context of what I do, right? I do hope that we can build, as Dr. Thaksin mentioned, a really competitive AI infrastructure with competitive power, enough compute power, and that we don't have to worry what's going to happen after May when U.S. Diffusion Act, when it comes to GPUs, come in place, that we can have a longer vision and we can plan ahead. And for companies to really invest in building their own AI applications, deploy them in Indonesia with some of the gentlemen sitting here. We are building digital medical assistant, and we are studying whether we can build AI agent for farmers and this and that. So just really to get our hands dirty and try to play with these tools, whether we build it ourselves or we partner with international companies, whether they are from America, from Europe, or from China. We hope that we'll get all this going.
Thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, I actually have one word, and that's nimble. I think in this current market environment, you have to be nimble. And I think in terms of action, right, being nimble, being quick to act on a lot of the suggestions that this group of panelists have made tonight, I think is number one. But then also being mindful that things can change very quickly, right? I don't think most people saw DeepSeek coming before the news broke earlier this year. So being nimble to act, but then also be willing to pivot if there are changes. Because what we think is a sweet spot today could very well change next day based on policy, based on technological advancement. So I would suggest being nimbleness is very important.
Is there something that we can do to make a country more nimble? What would that look like?
I think not being afraid to change when there are changes is for one. Yeah.
Thank you. Alex?
Well, I'm definitely far from an expert here, but I would say fundamentally it's about speed. I think many of the things that are been here discussed or that are top of mind for Dr. Thaksin, like making Thailand a hub for crypto and digital assets, like bringing the energy prices down. I think these are all the right directions. Thailand will just need to move really fast to react to the change that is happening. So I think decisive action and kind of fast follow through will matter the most probably.
Thank you. So Dr. Thaksin.
I will find a place in Bangkok to be data safe zone and to invite data center and to make that zone to be what we call digital embassy. So data center from every country can be there. So therefore, it will follow by AI hub. That's my dream. But I will make it happen. It's difficult, but it's possible. But we have to bring the electricity cost down as quick as possible. Otherwise, we lose the opportunity to do so.
And with that, everyone, we aim where we started, with optimism. So this has been an extremely insightful discussion. Thank you all for participating. So we're going to move next to the Q&A session. For the audience, please stay seated. We will now start taking questions from the floor. So do we have a person on the floor with the mic that can go around? So first, is there anyone volunteer to ask questions? I think we have been extremely clear on panel. No one?
Somebody there, behind.
It's very dark, so your eyesight is much better than mine. You see one, right?
Yeah, there are two behind. I think it's...
So can a gentleman stand up?
Yeah, he's standing up.
Thank you. The mic is coming your way. So
This work? Oh, there you go.
Okay, so
I
please
just
introduce
told you.
yourself, keep your questions brief, and please state which panelist you want to respond from.
I have two, if you don't mind. The first one is about power. In December, I happened to have a meeting with Governor Jay Pritzker of Illinois. and he asked me a question, Dr. Thaksin, as to why Thailand doesn't go nuclear to lower its energy costs. Is that something the Pheu Thai party would consider of moving Thailand into nuclear energy?
Now there are different kinds of nuclear energy, but the small nuclear energy, that technology is quite mature. They've been used a lot in China, in Korea, and Japan, but it's still expensive. It's still expensive. Now on the clean energy, especially the solar energy, the cost is down a lot. If not including land, it can be down to one baht something. If we can use more clean energy at a lower cost and depend less and less on gas and coal, that's going to be bringing our cost down a lot, maybe 6-7 cents possible. But at the same time, the management at our electricity authority still not effective yet. We have a lot of loss per year, so we have to reduce the loss and trying to move into smart grid. Smart grid. That's going to be the plan that we should move to that direction, so we can reduce down to 6 cents, maybe 8 cents first.
Thank you, sir. My final question to Ellen, Ms. Gu, is the first speaker talked about new arenas. Thailand seems to still be playing in the tourism and agricultural arena. What's your view on that 10 years from now if Thailand doesn't move away from this arena of tourism, agriculture, and just being a service industry and not having anything new?
Was that directed to me? Okay. I think there are a couple of ways to think about this. A is from the economic growth perspective, and then B, if you're talking about the public markets, which I believe the previous presentation was referring to by capturing the large cap publicly listed companies, then right? So it's economic growth on one end, and then thinking about how public market will look like. Now, so based on that chart that was shown, for most of the Southeast Asian companies that are large caps in this region right now is still in the traditional sector with the exception of 1 or 2 on that list currently. So if we're thinking about 10 years forward, what will create investor demand to continue investing in these companies and also maybe even give it a higher valuation, meaning on a price to earnings basis that it will continue to grow. It would be dependent on a couple of things. One is the earnings, right? At the end of the day, when we're making investments in these companies, we are investing in the future profitability. And if they're, going back to your example about citing Thailand's key sectors right now, whether it be tourism to agriculture, if those two are still going to grow at a rate that's reasonable, demanded by investors, then they could be okay. But on a relative basis, if there are better valuation and growth in other markets where per each dollar that I'm investing in, I'm getting a higher return, then they might opt for the others. So I think that's the framework we wanted to use to think about Thailand's future growth story.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor? Please. The gentleman in the front.
I wanted to ask Alex about, if we think about investment horizon that's kind of 5 to 10 years away, and you think about quantum computers. Where are we in the race at the moment to commercial application? Who else is in the race other than the US and China? And how do we as a country position ourselves for that potential opportunity set?
So I think we're still on, so I was actually, right before this I was working remotely in quantum computing. And I think we are unfortunately still relatively far away from broad kind of commercial applications of quantum computing. Microsoft had a very important announcement 2 weeks ago, which still the research community is unclear if that is a legitimate find. They essentially had they describe it as a big breakthrough, but there's a big disagreement if that actually is the case. In short, I think we are still probably 5 to 10 years away from major commercial applications, and probably the major progress will have to be made by the major tech companies for now, given you talk about billions of dollars of investments and unclear capital returns in the short term. So I think that is likely nothing for Thailand to really focus on for now, would be my sense. And even the first applications we will see, given just the nature of quantum computers, they work very differently to classical computers. They will be in the kind of deep science, like biology, chemistry, simulating molecules. And so the capital returns even on these will take many years to really bear fruits. So I think we're still far away.
Do we have any more questions from the floor? Please, a gentleman on the second row of the second table.
As Mr. Thaksin mentioned on the electricity to decrease from 11 cents to 3 cents, could you explain more of a mechanism to decrease the price? Yeah.
So mechanism to decrease the price from 11 cents to 2 cents.
To 8 cents.
When the world talking about 2 cents, we have to have a plan. Otherwise, we cannot compete. But it's not easy because we still depend on fossil energy from outside. We do have our gas, which is gas from Gulf of Thailand is cheap. But but it's not enough. So we have to import LNG. The cost of gas power plant is still high. So we still have to depend on this for a while. But for solar cell, it's getting better and better, more efficient. But it needs a lot of land space, which is we have a lot of farmland. We will lose the farmland. So this is what we have to work cautiously on how we can get more of the cheaper energy. But for now, I think possible 8 cents is possible. 2 cents still very, very far away. But 8 cents we have to bring it down step by step. Otherwise, we cannot compete. Especially now, many countries want to invest here in Thailand on data center. I talked to some company. They said that 6 cents, they're acceptable. Maybe 6, 7 cents. That is, we have to bring it down to 2 baht and 50 stang. which is now we are 4 baht and 12 cents, 12 stang. So it will, we have the plan, but we cannot go that 2 cents yet. 8 cents is possible.
Earlier, the gentleman in the second row of the table. That's right.
I have a quick question. I see a lot of ex-minister Kun Suwat around here. So how do we should prepare our law and policy to cope up with the digitalization that coming to Thailand? This is very important. You can dream to the moon, but you're still on a bicycle in terms of law or policy maker in Thailand. How should we do? I need your advice.
Who are you addressing the question?
Maybe Kun Thaksin.
Dr. Thaksin.
Advice, not order.
He wants to. Could you repeat the question? He wants to understand how
because we see a lot of minister here, how we should prepare ourselves as a policy maker and a lawmaker to cope up with the digitalization, to have a fair playing field. That's hard, sorry.
We're talking about digital divide 20, 30 years ago. But still, during my sister as Prime Minister, we hand out tablet PC. That is, we try to bridge the digital gap. But the military coup d'etat, they canceled. Now, we trying to, but now with the smartphone, the digital divide getting improved a lot. The government is trying to cancel the 2G, 3G. So we have to replace the analog phone with the smartphone. Smartphone they can use for any application. They can use the service of AI from ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or whatever. That's going to help a lot. And if we have the plan and we have the movement and with the cooperation with some application company, we can train our Thai citizen to be AI literate as quick as possible, as much as possible. This is going to help a lot. And we don't have to write our own software. With AI can do everything for you, especially on coding. Yeah. You can ask Mr. Devin to do coding for you under the AI.
Do we have any more questions from the floor? If not, okay, I understand that we come to the end of our session tonight. I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude. First, a sincere thanks again to our panelists for sharing perspective. Your insights have truly enriched our conversation. I would also like to thank our audience for being here tonight. I hope you have found the discussion both engaging, thought-provoking, and also actionable in driving Thailand forward. And congratulations to MFC once again, and have a great night. Thank you. กล้องไปใช่ไหมคะไม่มองไม่เห็น
เสร็จสิ้นไปเป็นที่เรียบร้อย ร้อยแล้วนะครับสำหรับการถ่ายทอดสดงาน The World Next Opportunity and Beyond ครับซึ่งจัดขึ้นเนื่องในโอกาสครบ 50 ปีนะครับของบริษัท MFC Asset Management จำกัดมหาชนครับโดยได้รับเกียรตินะครับจากอดีตนายกรัฐมนตรีทักษิณชินวัตรนะครับที่ได้มาให้แง่มุมถึงการลงทุนและก็โอกาสของประเทศไทยในอนาคตด้วยนะครับซึ่งคุณทักษิณนะครับก็ได้มีการกล่าวถึงแง่มุมการลงทุนต่างๆในการพัฒนาประเทศนะครับโดยได้มีการระบุถึงสิ่งที่ควรจะเปลี่ยนแปลงสิ่งที่มีการเปลี่ยนแปลงไปมากที่สุดทั้งในระดับโลกในภูมิภาคแล้วก็ในประเทศไทยนะครับว่าที่ผ่านมานั้นพรรคเพื่อไทยครับได้มีการให้คำมั่นสัญญานะครับที่ทำให้ประเทศไทยเป็นศูนย์กลางของบล็อกเชนรวมไปถึงเศรษฐกิจดิจิทัลครับซึ่งสิ่งต่างๆเหล่านี้นะครับนายโดนัลด์ทรัมป์ประธานาธิบดีของสหรัฐอเมริกาก็ได้ให้ความสำคัญครับกับทั้งคริปโตเคอเรนซีนะครับซึ่งก็มั่นใจนะครับว่าประเทศไทยก็จะสามารถพัฒนาให้บรรลุผลได้ครับนอกจากนั้นครับรวมไปถึงการนำล่องเปิดแซนด์บ็อกซ์ที่ภูเก็ตนะครับและการใช้คริปโตเคอเรนซีหรือ stable coin นะครับที่รองรับโดยพันธบัตรของรัฐบาลคุณทักษิณก็มั่นใจนะครับว่าใน3เดือนนี้กระทรวงการคลังก็จะสามารถเริ่มดำเนินการได้นะครับเพราะว่าขณะนี้อยู่ระหว่างการเตรียมการแล้วครับรวมไปถึงการออกกฎระเบียบต่างๆเพื่อรองรับกับสินทรัพย์ดิจิทัลครับส่วนการเตรียมความพร้อมเพื่อให้นโยบายต่างๆได้เกิดขึ้นนั้นนะครับที่สอดคล้องกับการพัฒนาของคริปโตเคอเรนซีรวมไปถึงเทคโนโลยีดิจิทัลต่างๆนะครับคุณทักษิณก็มองนะครับว่าปัจจุบันรัฐบาลก็ได้มีการดำเนินโครงการดิจิทัลวอลเล็ตครับซึ่งก็เป็นการปูทางและก็เป็นการเตรียมความพร้อมนะครับโดยจะมีการใช้ดิจิทัล ID แล้วก็จะมีการสร้างบล็อกเชนของประเทศนะครับซึ่งก็มั่นใจว่าสิ่งต่างๆเหล่านี้จะสามารถเกิดขึ้นในประเทศไทยได้ภายในปีนี้อย่างแน่นอนครับส่วนในประเทศไทยมีการเปลี่ยนแปลงใดที่สอดคล้องกับพลังงานสีเขียวของสหรัฐอเมริกาหรือไม่นั้นนะครับคุณทักษิณก็ระบุนะครับว่าหลังจากที่ตนได้กลับมาตนเองก็ได้มีการพูดคุยกับนักลงทุนหลายๆคนนะครับที่อยากมาลงทุนในประเทศไทยโดยเฉพาะ Data Center AI และ Cloud ครับซึ่งตนเองก็มั่นใจนะครับว่าประเทศไทยมีความสามารถที่จะดึงดูดนักลงทุนได้นะครับแล้วก็ผู้ที่มาลงทุนในประเทศไทยนั้นส่วนหนึ่งครับก็ได้มีการสอบถามถึงเรื่องความสำคัญของพลังงานสีเขียวครับดังนั้นคุณทักษิณก็มองนะครับว่าจำเป็นจะต้องทำให้ราคาพลังงานในประเทศไทยเนี่ยทำให้ถูกขึ้นให้ได้นะครับเพื่อให้สามารถแข่งขันได้ในตลาดพลังงานสีเขียวที่มีราคาต่ำแล้วก็ในวงการของ AI ครับส่วนมองว่าประเทศไทยยังขาดแคลนบุคลากรด้าน AI หรือไม่นั้นนะครับคุณทักษิณก็มองนะครับว่าประเทศไทยอาจจะยังไม่ทัดเทียมกับสหรัฐอเมริกาแล้วก็จีนนะครับแล้วก็ตนเองเนี่ยก็อยากให้คนไทยเนี่ยมีความเข้าใจใน AI มากขึ้นนะครับเพราะว่าในอนาคตครับ AI ก็จะเข้ามามีความสำคัญแล้วก็เข้ามามีบทบาทในชีวิตประจำวันของประชาชนมากขึ้นครับแล้วก็จะมีประโยชน์ต่อการใช้ชีวิตในประจำวันด้วยซึ่งตนเองนะครับก็กำลังหามุมมองครับว่าจะปรับอย่างไรครับเพื่อให้ AI เข้ากับชีวิตของประชาชนมากขึ้นอย่างที่ประเทศจีนครับได้มีการนำ AI ไปใช้ในระบบของโรงพยาบาลนะครับซึ่งคุณทักษิณก็มองนะครับว่าในระบบสาธารณสุขของไทยนั้นมีความพร้อมอยู่แล้วถ้าหากนำ AI มาใช้เสมือนเป็นคุณหมอครับเพื่อให้ประชาชนสามารถพบแพทย์ได้ง่ายขึ้นก็น่าจะมีประโยชน์แล้วก็เสริมสร้างศักยภาพสาธารณสุขของไทยให้ได้มากขึ้นด้วยครับส่วนมองว่าหากประเทศไทยไม่มีการลงมือแก้ไขปัญหาทั้งพลังงานสีเขียวการขาดแคลนบุคลากรด้านเทคโนโลยีและการก้าวเข้าสู่สังคมผู้สูงอายุจะเกิดผลกระทบกับประเทศไทยอย่างไรบ้างนั้นนะครับคุณทักษิณก็มองนะครับว่าประเทศไทยควรจะต้องแก้ไขปัญหานี้ในทันทีเลยครับเพื่อให้โอกาสทางเศรษฐกิจในประเทศไทยสามารถขับเคลื่อนต่อไปได้โดยเฉพาะด้าน AI ครับเพราะว่าประเทศไทยเนี่ยมีโครงสร้างพื้นฐานต่างๆพร้อมอยู่แล้วนะครับหากนำเทคโนโลยีเข้ามาผนวกด้วยก็จะเสริมสร้างศักยภาพของประเทศไทยให้ได้มากขึ้นครับโดยเฉพาะด้านเทคโนโลยีหรือด้าน AI ที่ประเทศไทยมีข้อได้เปรียบสามารถดึงดูดนักลงทุนจากต่างประเทศได้ครับซึ่งหากทำได้นะครับจะทำให้เศรษฐกิจของประเทศไทยเติบโตได้อย่างก้าวกระโดดอย่างมีนัยสำคัญครับและทั้งหมดนี้นะครับก็ถือเป็นภาพรวมในการจัดงาน The World Next Opportunity and Beyond ครับที่เซ็นทรัลแกรนด์แอทเซ็นทรัลเวิลด์โดยเครือเนชั่นกรุ๊ปครับร่วมกับMFC Asset Management ครับต้องขอบคุณคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านครับที่ติดตามรับชมมาตั้งแต่เริ่มการถ่ายทอดสดครับคุณผู้ชมสามารถติดตามช่องทางการไลฟ์และการถ่ายทอดสดคอนเทนต์ดีนะครับและความเคลื่อนไหวทั้งการเมืองเศรษฐกิจและสังคมครับผ่านทาง Facebook และ YouTube ของ Nation TV นะครับรวมไปถึงติดตามได้ผ่านช่อง Nation TV ช่อง 22 ครับสำหรับวันนี้ผมคัชธาพงศ์ลีลาพงศ์และทีมงานทุกคนขอลาคุณผู้ชมทุกท่านไปก่อนนะครับสำหรับวันนี้สวัสดีครับ